The shotgun blast echoed across the cornfields like a thunderclap from hell, shattering the afternoon quiet and sending a flock of crows exploding into the sky. I froze on the porch steps, my heart slamming against my ribs, as dust swirled up from the gravel drive where my neighbor, Ethan, stood with Grandpa's old Remington still smoking in his hands. "Jesus, Ethan," I gasped, my voice cracking like dry timber. "You just killed the wrong damn ghost." That farm in rural Illinois had been my grandfather's pride. A sprawling patch of earth where he'd wrestled cornstalks from the black soil and chased away storms with sheer stubborn will. Grandpa Harlan passed 6 months ago, leaving it to me in his will. A crumbling kingdom of sagging barns and rusted tractors that I hadn't set foot on since I was 18. Too busy chasing city lights in Chicago to bother with the ghosts of my youth. But the lawyer's letter arrived like a bad omen. Unpaid taxes, a foreclosure notice looming like storm clouds over the flatlands. Sell it or lose it. Simple as that. Except nothing about Harlan's farm was ever simple. I called Ethan on a whim. We'd been neighbors for 2 years in our cramped Wicker Park brownstone. Him the quiet graphic designer with the easy laugh, and me the burned-out marketing exec nursing a string of bad dates and worse hangovers. He had a truck, a knack for fixing things, and eyes the color of Lake Michigan on a clear day. Blue enough to drown in. Road trip. I joked over takeout Thai that night, waving the letter like a white flag. Help a guy out? He'd grinned. That lopsided smile that always made my stomach flip in ways I pretended not to notice. "Only if you promise not to make me milk any cows, Alex." Now, as the sun dipped low over the horizon, painting the sky in strokes of orange and pink, we rattled up the gravel drive in his beat-up Ford F-150. The kind of truck that smelled like pine air freshener and unspoken regrets. The farm looked smaller than I remembered, swallowed by weeds that clawed at the tires like desperate fingers. The 2-story farmhouse sagged under the weight of 20 years' neglect, its white paint flaking like old skin, the wraparound porch creaking under our boots. Ethan killed the engine, and the silence rushed in, thick and accusatory. "Home sweet home," I muttered, grabbing the duffel bags from the bed. My voice sounded foreign here, too polished for the dust-choked air. Ethan hopped out, stretching his arms overhead, his flannel shirt riding up just enough to show a sliver of tanned skin above his jeans. I looked away quick, heat crawling up my neck. "Keep it together, Alex. He's straight, or at least that's what you tell yourself." We'd barely crossed the threshold when the first sign hit. The floorboards groaned underfoot, but not from age. Something shifted in the shadows of the living room. A whisper of movement, like a curtain fluttering in a breeze that wasn't there. Ethan flicked on the hall light, a bare bulb swinging like a noose, and that's when we saw it. The shotgun, propped in the corner by the stone fireplace, its barrel gleaming dully in the yellow glow. Grandpa's Remington, loaded, if the shell casings scattered on the hearth were any clue. "Coincidence," Ethan said, his voice low, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the room like he was storyboarding a thriller. I forced a laugh that died in my throat. In this house, Harlan once shot a raccoon that was eyeing his prized tomatoes. Said it was personal. But my hands shook as I picked up the gun, the cold metal biting into my palm. That's when the hook sank deeper. The note tucked into the stock, scrawled in Grandpa's spidery hand. "Watch the attic, boy. Secrets don't bury themselves." We crashed that first night on musty mattresses in the upstairs bedrooms, the kind that smelled of mothballs and faded dreams. Sleep came in fits, haunted by the creak of settling beams and the distant hoot of an owl that sounded too much like a warning. Ethan snored softly next door, a rhythm that should have lulled me but instead twisted something low in my gut. I'd caught myself staring at him earlier, over the flickering light of a camp stove dinner, canned beans and cornbread mix we'd scavenged from the pantry. His profile against the window, jaw set in that thoughtful way, firelight dancing in his eyes. "What the hell are you doing, Alex?" This wasn't a vacation. This was salvage and sell, a weekend to tie up loose ends before the bank swooped in. By morning, the farm felt alive in a way that prickled my skin. Dew clung to the fields like diamond dust, and the air hummed with the promise of harvest that never came. Ethan was up before me, tinkering with the old John Deere in the barn, grease smudged across his cheek like war paint. Thought we'd check the attic first, he called as I wandered out with 2 mugs of instant coffee, steam curling like question marks. That notes got me curious. The attic stairs were a narrow gauntlet of splintered wood, leading to a loft stuffed with trunks and cobweb-draped relics. Sunlight slanted through a grimy dormer, illuminating dust motes that danced like lost souls. We pried open the first chest. Grandpa's war memorabilia from Nam, metals tarnished but sharp-edged with memory. Then the letters. Dozens of them, yellowed envelopes bound with twine, addressed to Harlan in a handwriting I didn't recognize. Feminine curves, but the salutation gut-punched me. My dearest Harlan. Ethan whistled low. Your grandpa had a pen pal? I slit one open, heart thudding. The words spilled out like blood. I miss you in the quiet hours, when the city lights can't touch the ache. Remember the river? The way we lay under the stars, your hand in mine. My throat closed. Grandpa, the bull-headed farmer who'd preached hard work and harder silences, had loved a man. Or at least, that's what the river memory screamed. 2 boys in the 50s, stealing moments by the Mississippi, before the world beat it out of them. Alex! Ethan's hand on my shoulder was warm, steadying. I hadn't realized I'd sunk to my knees, the letter trembling in my fist. You okay? No, I wasn't, because in that attic dust, I saw my own secrets mirrored back. Nights scrolling Grindr in the dark, deleting messages before dawn, telling myself I was fine with the half-life of casual hookups. Fine with never letting anyone close enough to see the cracks. And Ethan. God, Ethan, with his easy touch and lingering glances that I chalked up to bromance. What if? We spent the day cataloging, the air growing thick with unspoken questions. By evening, as we grilled burgers on a rusted Weber, flames licking the twilight sky, the farm seemed to lean in, listening. Ethan cracked a beer, foam spilling over his knuckles. Your grandpa was braver than he let on. Hiding this? In his time? That's heavy. Yeah. I poked at the coals, sparks rising like confessions. Makes me wonder what else he buried. The words hung there, heavy as the humidity. Ethan's gaze met mine across the fire, and for a beat, the world narrowed to the crackle and the blue of his eyes. Then he looked away, clearing his throat. That night the storm hit. Thunder rolled in from the west like an invading army, rain lashing the roof in sheets. I bolted upright in bed, sheets tangled around my legs, pulse racing from a dream I couldn't shake. Grandpa by the river, young and laughing, his lover's face blurred but familiar. Ethan's. Impossible. A crash downstairs jolted me fully awake. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. I grabbed the Remington from the dresser, unloaded, thank God, and crept to the hall. Ethan's door creaked open. He was there in boxers and a tee, hair tousled, eyes wide. You hear that? We descended like commandos, flashlight beams slicing the dark. The living room was chaos. The fireplace poker toppled, embers scattered, and the front door ajar, wind howling through like a banshee. But it wasn't the storm. Footprints, muddy boots, tracked across the threshold, leading to the kitchen. Someone's been here, Ethan whispered, his breath hot on my neck. We followed the trail to the back door, where it vanished into the downpour. Outside, lightning cracked the sky, illuminating a figure melting into the tree line. A silhouette too familiar. Tall, broad-shouldered. My Uncle Ray, the brother who'd contested the will, snarling about family legacy over the phone last week. Betrayal tasted like rust on my tongue. We barricaded the doors, hearts pounding in tandem, and collapsed on the couch as the storm raged. Ethan pulled a quilt over us. Grandpa's old stars and stripes, frayed but defiant. Think it's him? He asked, voice muffled against my shoulder. I hadn't noticed how close we'd shifted, his body heat seeping through the chill. Ray's always hated loose ends. And me. The words tumbled out, laced with old venom. Uncle Ray, the golden boy who'd stayed on the farm after Dad split, only to run it into the ground with bad debts and worse tempers. When I came out at 16, awkward, tear-streaked confession over Thanksgiving turkey. He'd called me an abomination, spat Bible verses like bullets. Grandpa had just squeezed my hand under the table, silent as stone. Now, those letters. Had Ray known? Burned them once, maybe twice? Ethan's arm tightened around me, a casual drape that felt like an anchor. You're not alone in this, Alex. Whatever's coming, storms, uncles, ghosts, I'm here. The rain drummed on, a lullaby of fury, and in that cocoon of quilt and quiet, I let myself lean into him, just a little. His heartbeat synced with mine, steady as the fields outside. Sleep claimed us there, tangled and innocent, the farm holding its breath. Dawn broke gray and sodden, the world scrubbed raw by the night's fury. Puddles mirrored the bruised sky as Ethan and I shoveled mud from the porch, the Remington propped nearby like a watchful dog. My muscles ached from the adrenaline crash, but there was a clarity to the air, sharp as cut glass. Those letters burned in my mind, fragments of a love Grandpa had walled away, brick by painful brick. We can't, Harlan. Not here. Not us. The final one, dated 1962, ended mid-sentence, ink smeared like tears. You think Ray torched the rest? Ethan grunted, heaving a shovelful of muck. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the chill, and I caught myself tracing the line of his jaw with my eyes. Focus, damn it. Wouldn't put it past him. He worshipped Dad. Thought Grandpa was soft for not disowning me after. I trailed off, stabbing the ground harder than necessary. After the truth came out, after the family fractured like cheap china, Ethan paused, leaning on his shovel. Hey, Harlan left you the farm for a reason. Screw Ray. His certainty wrapped around me warmer than the quilt last night. We finished the cleanup in companionable silence, then turned to the barn. Red paint peeling like sunburnt skin, doors groaning on rusted hinges. Inside, the air was thick with hay dust and oil, sunlight piercing the cracks like golden knives. Tools hung in orderly rows, relics of Grandpa's meticulous hands. We inventoried for the estate sale. Rakes, sickles, a harrow that could till a man's regrets. That's when we found the hidden panel. Ethan was prying loose a warped plank when his knuckles rapped hollow wood. Alex, check this. Together, we wedged it free, revealing a shallow recess stuffed with more envelopes, brittle as autumn leaves, and photos, faded Polaroids of two young men by the river. Grandpa, lean and grinning, arm slung around a stranger with Ethan's eyes. The resemblance hit like a sucker punch. Same tilt to the smile, same reckless spark. Holy shit, Ethan breathed, holding one up to the light. That's intense. My fingers trembled as I traced the figures. He never said a word. Not to me, not to anyone. The weight of it pressed down. The silence Grandpa carried like a cross, loving in shadows while the world demanded straight lines and white picket fences. And me, his queer grandson, inheriting the echo without the map. We broke for lunch on the tailgate of the truck, peanut butter sandwiches and thermos coffee, legs dangling over the edge. The field stretched endless, golden stubble whispering in the breeze. Ethan nudged my boot with his. You ever think about it? What it'd be like if he could have been out? Proud, you know? All the time. The admission slipped free, raw as an open wound. I keep waiting for that courage, but every time I get close to a guy to reel, something pulls back. Fear mostly. Family bullshit like Ray's. Ethan's gaze held mine, steady and searching. What if it's not fear? What if it's just timing? His voice softened, thumb brushing mine where our hands rested inches apart on the metal. Electricity arced, subtle as summer static. I swallowed, pulse thundering. Before I could respond, tires crunched on gravel. Ray's pickup barreled up the drive, mud flinging like accusations. He killed the engine and stepped out, all 6'4" of him, face like thundercloud, ruddy cheeks, eyes narrowed to slits under the brim of his Cubs cap. The hell you doing here, boy? He barked, voice gravel over glass. This ain't your place no more. It's mine by law. I shot back, sliding off the tailgate. Ethan flanking me like a shield. Will's ironclad. You contesting it? Ray's laugh was a bark, devoid of humor. Law? Banks got first dibs. And I got papers saying otherwise. He slapped a manila folder against his thigh. Rain from last night still spotting the edges. Harlan owed me, big, for keeping this dump afloat after your daddy run off. Liar. The word escaped before I could leash it. Ethan's hand grazed my elbow. Calm down. But Ray's eyes flicked to it, darkening. Who's the pretty boy? City slicker come to play farmhand. He sneered, stepping closer, the folder thrusting forward like a weapon. Sign it over, Alex, or I'll make sure everyone knows what kinda legacy Harlan left. The sick kinda. The Polaroids burned in my pocket like contraband. You knew, I whispered, horror dawning. About him. About everything. Ray's face twisted, a mask cracking. Knew? I buried it. For the family. He was weak, Alex. Like you. Spittle flew, and he lunged, folder aimed at my chest. But Ethan moved faster, shoulder-checking him back. Back off! Ethan growled, voice low thunder. Ray stumbled, surprise blooming into rage, and for a heartbeat, I thought fists would fly. But he straightened, dusting his shirt, eyes promising hell. This ain't over. He spat on the ground, tires spinning as he peeled out, leaving us in a wake of dust and dread. We stood there, breaths ragged, the farm pulsing with the aftermath. Ethan's hand found mine then, deliberate, fingers lacing tight. You good? No, but with him, closer than I'd been in years. Yeah, thanks to you. That afternoon blurred into repair work, patching the roof where wind had torn shingles free, nailing boards over rotted sills. Ethan hammered with focused fury, each strike echoing my turmoil. By dusk, we were filthy, bone-tired, but the house felt sturdier, less like a ruin. We showered in the clawfoot tub. Separately, voices calling through the thin walls about hot water rations, and reconvened in the kitchen for spaghetti from a box, red sauce bubbling on the propane stove. Candlelight flickered, casting shadows that danced like secrets finally freed. Ethan twirled pasta on his fork, sauce staining his lip. Ray's bluffing. About the papers. Maybe. I pushed food around my plate, appetite lost to the knot in my chest. But the bank's real. I can't save this place. Not alone. You're not. He reached across the table, palm up. I took it, the calluses from his design pencils rough against my skin. Whatever you decide. Sell. Fight. Burn it down. I'm in. The air thickened, charged like pre-storm ozone. His thumb stroked my knuckle, a question in the touch. My breath hitched. Ethan. Alex. My name in his mouth was a revelation, soft, weighted. He stood, chair scraping, and rounded the table. I rose to meet him, hands finding his waist, the flannel warm under my fingers. Our foreheads touched, breaths mingling. I've wanted this, you, for months, but I didn't want to push. Not when you were hurting. The dam broke. I kissed him. Tentative at first, lips brushing like a dare, then deeper, hungry for the truth we'd both skirted. He tasted like salt and sauce, arms wrapping me close, pulling me flush against the solid line of him. The world narrowed to this. The farm's heartbeat underfoot, the candles glow, and Ethan, unraveling me with gentle hands and whispered promises. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, smiles tentative in the half-light. Timing, he murmured, echoing lunch. Finally right. But as we cleared the dishes, a chill slithered in. The back door unlocked. Footprints again, fresh from the day's drizzle. Ray? Or something worse? The farm whispered warnings, but in Ethan's arms on the couch that night, quilt drawn tight, I let myself believe in more than ghosts. Sleep was a fragile truce, shattered by midnight's clamor. A window rattled downstairs, glass shivering like teeth in the cold. Ethan stirred beside me, his body a warm curve against mine. We'd migrated to the couch in a tangle of limbs and lazy kisses, too spent from the day's revelations to climb stairs. What the? Stay here. I slipped free, grabbing the flashlight from the coffee table. The beam cut through the gloom, revealing the kitchen door swinging on its hinges. Rain-slick wind gusting in. Muddy prints again, but these veered toward the basement stairs. Dark maw yawning under the floorboards. Ethan was behind me in seconds, shirtless, jeans zipped hasty. Not without me. His voice brooked no argument. Hands steady on my shoulder as we descended. Beam bouncing off concrete walls slick with damp. The basement was a tomb of forgotten harvests. Shelves of jars gone to vinegar, a workbench cluttered with rusted tools. And in the corner, the safe, Grandpa's squat, black strongbox, door ajar, contents spilled like entrails. Papers, legal briefs, yellowed deeds, and buried under mortgage stubs, a smaller envelope, sealed with red wax. My name in Harlan's hand. For Alexander when the time's right. We hauled it upstairs, barricading once more, and huddled under the quilt with a lantern's glow. My fingers shook as I broke the seal. Inside, a letter, crisp as if penned yesterday, and a key small, ornate, etched with a river bend. Alex, if you're reading this, the farm's fighting back. It always does. I built this place on lies, mine mostly. Loved a man once, fierce as any storm. Lost him to the world's ugly math. Kept the ache buried like bad seed. But you're the bloom I never dared. Be brave where I couldn't. The key opens the river shed. What's there is yours. Forgive an old fool his silences. Love don't hide forever. Harlan. Tears blurred the ink. Ethan read over my shoulder, arm around me, thumb tracing soothing circles. He knew. About you. Proud. The word cracked me open. Proud. I chased it in boardrooms and bars, in fleeting touches that left me hollow. Grandpa had seen me queer and questing and left this map. The river shed, I murmured. By the Mississippi bend, half a mile out. We go at first light. Ethan's chin rested on my head, breath ruffling my hair. Together. Dawn came mercifully, mist rising off the fields like steam from a cooling forge. We hiked the overgrown path, boots sucking in mud, the river's murmur growing louder. A silver ribbon snaking through cottonwoods. The shed was a lean-to of weathered tin, half swallowed by vines, key fitting the padlock with a click like fate turning. Inside, not gold or deeds, but memory. A trunk of letters, the full archive undestroyed, and photos, dozens, charting a love from tentative 50s glances to 70s embraces. Grandpa's lover aging into a man named Elias, eyes indeed like Ethan's. Journals too, Elias's hand. Poetry of stolen nights, the terror of raids on underground bars in St. Louis, the quiet joy of hands held under quilted covers. And at the bottom, 2 silver rings, etched with the river's curve. Unworn but waiting. I lifted one, cool metal heavy with what-ifs. He proposed, and Harlan said no, to keep him safe. Ethan's fingers closed over mine, ring glinting between us. Or maybe he said yes in the ways that mattered. His voice was thick, eyes shimmering. We sat on the shed floor, backs to the wall, reading aloud. Passages of longing that mirrored my own buried heart. Elias's words. Love isn't the storm, Harlan. It's the calm after, when you see the man beside you and know the world's worth fighting. By noon, we emerged changed, trunk under arm, rings pocketed. The farm welcomed us back with birdsong, as if approving. But Ray was waiting, truck parked crooked by the barn, him pacing like a caged wolf. Took you long enough, he snarled as we approached. Found something in there? Something to sell your soul for. More like truth, I said, voice steady for the first time. Ethan set the trunk down, stance protective. Ray's eyes darted to it, then the rings peeking from my collar. I'd slipped one on, impulsive, a talisman. His laugh was ugly. Truth? Harlan's filth? I burned half of M years ago. Elias, that pervert, tried to buy his way back once. Begged for scraps. Ray's face contorted, venom spilling. I told him Harlan was done. Family first. You monster. The words exploded from me. Fists clenched. You drove him away. Grandpa loved him, and you protected us. Ray roared, stepping forward. From whispers, from the town turning. Your daddy would have hated it. Hated you. The betrayal landed like a blade, twisting deep. Dad, gone since I was 10, car wreck on I-80. Had Ray poisoned him too? Against Grandpa? Against me? Ethan surged between us. Enough. This ends now. But Ray shoved him. Hard. Ethan stumbled, shoulder cracking against the barn door. Rage blinded me. I lunged, fist connecting with Ray's jaw in a burst of pain and satisfaction. He reeled, blood welling from his lip, and swung wild, connecting with my ribs, air whooshing out. We grappled in the dust, grunts and curses mingling with the river's distant roar. Ethan pulled Ray off, pinning his arms, but not before Ray's knee drove into my gut. I curled, gasping, world spinning. You ain't fit for this land, Ray spat, wrenching free. I'll have the sheriff here by nightfall. Trespassing. Assault. He stormed to his truck, engine roaring to life, leaving us battered in the yard. Ethan knelt, hands gentle on my face. Alex breathed. You okay? Ribs throbbed, but his touch soothed. Yeah, he admitted it. The burning. We've got proof now. Ethan nodded to the trunk. Letters. His confession on record if we push. But as he helped me up, a deeper ache bloomed. Not bruises, but the fracture of family. The legacy of hate Harlan had shielded me from. We limped inside, ice packs from the ancient freezer pressed to welts, and poured over the journals. Elias's final entry, 1985. Harlan says wait. The boy's coming. Teach him love don't break easy. Grandpa had planned this. The farm, the secrets. A gift wrapped in pain, urging me forward. That evening, as sunset bled crimson over the fields, Ethan and I walked the porch, his arm around my waist, steadying. What now? He asked, voice soft against the twilight. Fight. The word felt right, ring heavy on my finger. For the farm. For us. I turned, cupping his face, kissing him slow, tasting salt of sweat and tears, the promise of tomorrows. He melted into it, hands framing my hips, the world fading to the press of him. But headlights pierced the dusk. Sheriff's cruiser, lights flashing silent. Ray's doing. Deputy Klein, an old hunting buddy of his, stepped out, notepad in hand. Heard there's trouble. Alex Harlan. We faced it together, me bruised, Ethan fierce, spilling the truth in measured tones. The break-ins, the trunk, Ray's admissions. Klein's face tightened, glancing at the rings, the letters peeking from the trunk. This complicates things. Truth usually does. Ethan's grip tightened on mine. Klein sighed, holstering his pen. I'll look into it, but stay put. He drove off, taillights winking into night, leaving us in charged quiet. We made love then, not urgent but reverent, on the quilt by the fire we'd kindled. Clothes shed slow, hands mapping scars and stories, bodies joining in a rhythm as old as the river. Whispers of I love you in the afterglow. Ethan's head on my chest, fingers tracing the ring. The farm side approval, wind rustling eaves like applause. Yet sleep evaded, shadows lengthening with worry. Ray wouldn't stop, and the bank? Clock ticking. Morning brought no mercy. A summons taped to the door, court date in Peoria set for week's end. Foreclosure hearing, Ray's petition attached like a noose. I crumpled it, fury hot in my veins, but Ethan pried it free, smoothing the creases. We prepare. Fight smart. He was right, as always. We spent the day in the den. Grandpa's leather chair creaking under our weight. Scanning letters onto Ethan's laptop, timestamping photos, compiling a dossier that painted Ray as the villain. Embezzlement hints in old ledgers, the burned archive as destruction of evidence. Elias's journals wove the emotional thread. Love as legacy, hate as the thief. By afternoon, sweat-slick and determined, we broke for air. The fields called endless gold under a relentless sun. Ethan suggested a walk to the river. Clear our heads. Hand in hand, we traced the path again, shed a touchstone now. The Mississippi churned lazy, banks lined with wild iris nodding in the breeze. We skipped stones, mine plunking pathetic, his skipping for 5, laughing till ribs ached anew. "You're terrible at this," he teased, arms slinging my shoulders. "Blame the bruises." I leaned into him, head on his collarbone. "Or the distraction." His chuckle rumbled deep. "Best kind." We kissed there, sun-warmed and unhurried, the river bearing witness. In that moment, the farm felt invincible. Ours, a haven carved from hurt. Back home, reality intruded. A call from the lawyer in Chicago. Ray's pushing hard. Claims emotional distress, undue influence on Harlan. Bank wants the property cleared by Friday. My grip whitened on the phone. "We have evidence. Bring it." "But Alex, it's thin. Family ties run deep here." Ethan watched from the kitchen, brewing tea chamomile, his comfort ritual. When I hung up, he pulled me close, mug pressed warm into my hands. "One step, Peoria. We go tomorrow." The drive was a blur of highways and heartbeats. Ethan's truck eating miles while we rehearsed. Me in the passenger seat, papers fanned like cards. His free hand laced with mine over the console, thumb stroking absently. "You'll kill it," he said at a stoplight, green eyes locked. "Harlan's fire in you." Court was a squat brick building in downtown Peoria, fluorescent hum and the tang of old coffee. Ray sat smug in the gallery, flanked by a slick attorney from Springfield. Cheap suit, sharper lies. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and sharper eyes, called order. My lawyer, Ms. Vargas, laid it out. The will's validity, Ray's intermeddling, the trunk's revelations. "Your Honor, my client seeks to honor Harlan's wishes. This farm is more than land. It's history." She slid exhibits across the bench. Letters, photos, the rings glinting under lights. Ray's counsel rose, oily. "Slanderous fabrications. Mr. Harlan was of sound mind, but influenced by delusions. And the petitioner," he gestured at me, lip curling. "A drifter with city vices, unfit to steward family soil." Vargas fired back. "Objection prejudicial." Sustained. But the damage lingered, whispers rippling through the room. Ray caught my eye, smirk triumphant. Halfway through, Ethan slipped out. "Bathroom break," he mouthed. I nodded, focusing on breathing. Recess came like mercy. In the hall I paced, walls closing. Footsteps. Ethan, returning with coffees, but his face was ashen. Alex, Ray's outside, talking to reporters, spinning it as a family feud over perversion. Local papers here. Nausea roiled. "How'd he?" "Doesn't matter." We counter. But his eyes betrayed fear. For me, for us. Back in session, Vargas called me to the stand. Under oath, I testified. The farm's pull, Grandpa's silences, the trunk's gift. He left it to me because he saw himself. The love we hid. Voice steady, but tears pricked. Ray's counsel cross-examined, probing. "And this, companion of yours? Influence." "Ethan's a friend." "More. But the will predates us." The lie by omission stung, truth too raw for this room. Then, the twist, Vargas called a surprise witness. Elias, not dead. Alive, 87, frail but fierce, wheeled in by a nurse. Gasps echoed. Ray blanched, color draining. "Mr. Kowalski," Vargas prompted. "You knew Harlan?" Elias's voice quavered but held steel. "Loved him. 60 years. Ray. He knew. Threatened to expose us unless Harlan signed over shares. I left to protect him. But the letters? I kept copies. Proof. He produced a binder, duplicates, notarized, detailing Ray's extortion. The courtroom hushed as pages turned. Dates, demands, Harlan's payments funneled through Ray's loans. Ray bolted, literally, chair scraping as he lunged for the doors. Bailiffs swarmed, cuffs clicking. Chaos, shouts, gavel bangs. Order. Ethan was there when I stepped down, arms enveloping. "You did it." "We did." But elation soured quick. Reporters mobbed the steps, mics thrusting. Is it true? The farm's a queer legacy. Flashes blinded, questions like barbs. We fled to the truck, peeling out toward the interstate. Silence stretched, heavy. That was out there, Ethan finally said, knuckles white on the wheel. Yeah. I stared at passing corn, the ring's twin weights. Elias. He came for us. A beat. Then softer. You called me a friend. More. Heat flooded my face. It's okay. But his tone fractured, hurt glinting. I get it. Public. Small town. No. I grabbed his hand. It's everything. I love you, Ethan. All in. He pulled over at a scenic overlook. River glittering below. Turned, eyes searching. Say it again. I love you. Kiss sealing it, fierce and forgiving. We drove home laughing, windows down, wind whipping secrets free. The farm greeted us golden, but victory was Pyrrhic. Reporters had trailed, drones buzzing, a van parked at the gate, and mail. Bank's final notice, eviction in 48 hours. Ray's arrest bought time, but debts loomed. That night, fire crackling, we plotted. Fundraiser? Historical designation. Elias's story as hook. LGBT landmark. Ethan sketched logos on napkins, me emailing contacts. Hope flickered, fragile. But betrayal's shadow lingered. Package on the porch at midnight, no stamp, just my name. Inside, scorched letters, Elias's originals. And a note. You think this ends it? Blood don't lie. And signed, but Ray's venom. Fear coiled cold. Ethan burned it in the hearth, ashes swirling. He's locked up. For now. We clung tighter, love a bulwark. But sleep brought dreams. River rising, swallowing the farm, Ray's laugh echoing. The next 48 hours blurred into battle stations. Dawn broke with Ethan's laptop glowing. GoFundMe live. Save Harlan's heart. A queer legacy on the Mississippi. Photos of the farm, trunk excerpts, anonymized. Elias's quote. Love tills the soil deeper. Donations trickled. $50 from a Chicago aunt, $100 from Ethan's design firm. Then surged, viral on Twitter after a local blogger picked it up. Farm love trended in Illinois. Shares from HRC. Heartfelt DMs flooding. Your story's ours too. Reporters camped, but we spun it positive. Press conference on the porch. Me in Grandpa's old flannel. Ethan beside, hand discreet on my back. This isn't just a farm. It's proof love endures. Cameras clicked, questions softened. By noon, $20,000 raised. Bank called, extension granted, pending full payoff. Elation crested that afternoon, swimming the river. Improvised, clothes shed on the bank, water-cool silk against sun-baked skin. We splashed like kids, then floated, hands linked, clouds drifting lazy. We might pull this off, Ethan murmured, water beating on his lashes. Might. I splashed him, grinning. Will. Elias visited next day, chauffeured from his assisted living in Quincy. Frail in a wheelchair, but eyes alight as we wheeled him through the fields. Smells like him, he said, inhaling deep. Grandpa's ghost hovered, approving. Over tea, stories flowed. Their first kiss behind a hay bale. Raids dodged in drag bars. Harlan's proposal under harvest moon. Yes whispered, rings hidden. We lived it quiet, Elias said, hand over mine. You? Shout it. He gifted the second ring to Ethan, for the one who stayed, and we toasted with lemonade, tears salting the rims. As he left, hugging us fierce. Fights half won when love leads. Ray's trial loomed, but cracks showed. His loans unraveled as fraud. Accomplices flipping. Our lawyer crowed over phone. Plea incoming. Farm's yours clean. By week's end, the fundraiser hit $75,000. Bank paid, surplus for repairs. Crews arrived. Roofers, painters, volunteers from the city hauling lumber. Ethan directed like a maestro, me wrangling permits. Evenings we collapsed on the porch swing, newly hung. Swinging slow, stars pricking the velvet sky. Kisses deepened, bodies entwining under blankets, passion of fire banked but burning. "Marry me," Ethan whispered one night, Grandpa's ring, Elias's now, twisting on his finger mirroring mine. Yes, simple as breath. The farm bore witness, wind sighing benediction. But climax brewed unseen. Ray's arraignment, we testified, faces stone. He glared from the dock, shackled, but broken shoulders slumped, no fire left. "Sorry," he mumbled post-verdict. In the hall, deputy hovering. "Hated what I saw in him. In you. Feared it." "Fear's a thief," I said, Ethan's hand in mine. "Steals everything." He nodded, tears tracking. "Fix it? The farm. Together. Not forgiveness but a door cracked. Human, messy. Months unfurled golden. The farm bloomed. B&B queer friendly. Weekends hosting retreats. Story circles by the river. Weddings under the cottonwoods. Elias moved into the guest cottage, his laughter a new melody. Chicago faded. I consulted remote. Ethan freelanced from the den. Roots deepened. Love the deepest. One harvest eve, scythe in hand, reenacting Grandpa's tales. We paused by the shed, rings catching sunset. "Changed everything?" Ethan said, pulling me close. "Yeah." Kiss sealing it eternal as the river. The farm stood sentinel, secrets unearthed, legacy alive. In America's heartland, two men built what hate couldn't break. Home.